Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie, and somehow, some way, the Blues have done it. They are finals bound in the funniest possible way, the most ridiculous way possible. Lockie, who even needs to win games of footy? Clearly, it's not us. So, mate, how are you doing? And what do you even say after the emotional weekend that we've just had?
There's nothing to say, and there's so much to say. You and I had immediate debrief post game in that torrential rain on Sunday, so I'm very keen to hear about how your emotions have changed from over time and to sitting here tonight.
It's been absolutely insane. So let's get straight into it. Let's review the game. Let's review everything that has transpired over the weekend. And I think the best way to do it, because the hard thing for something like this, when clearly we've lost the game and for a moment it was disaster. Port win, all of a sudden season's still alive and your emotions have to shift so much. It's hard to know what to cover in this episode. And the great Paul Barbaza has just found the perfect way to do it. We asked for the listener questions and he jumped in and he wanted to know, he just wanted us to outline our range of emotions from the day, what we experienced, before the game, during the game, at the end, heading into the Port game, the same thing. So we're going to basically go through it all. And I really just want to start by going through the roller coaster. So let's begin. And I want everyone else who is watching and listening to this right now to do the exact same. Let me know what you felt. I want to know all the stories throughout the wild Sunday that it was. So drop them in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Head over to the socials at Navy Blue Corner. Let us know there. But Lockie, let's start pre-game. How were the nerves? How are you feeling? Were you confident that we were going to be able to get it done?
I was feeling really confident. It was hard not for me to get swept up in the West Coast performance, I think. And, you know, how the young players perform, the intensity, all the things that we covered when we spoke last week. It just had me feeling like we would be able to get up for a game like this, even without some of the ins that maybe we were hoping for. It's so interesting how it all played out, where you think, well, what does St Kilda have to play for when we have everything on the line? And I guess this weekend kind of showed that, yeah, maybe you can't take as much into that as you could think previously, because I was buying into that. And apologies, I will say 3 minutes in, clearly I lost my voice at the game on Sunday, still recovering, so I hope you can bear with me. It's all through passion.
Well, it was a bit of a different, I guess, change up for you, having been in London for some time, finally coming back to Australia to witness just it all in person. Just from that perspective, how different was it to having spent so long watching the games on TV and being so far away from it? What was it like then being back in that atmosphere, at least pre-game anyway, and sort of soaking that all in? Did anything change emotion-wise for you kind of leading in?
That's such a good observation from you. I feel like I'm just home already, being back here for a couple of weeks. It feels like so normal to be going to the footy. More similar than I think I would have expected. I really, even when you're tens of thousands of kilometers away and watching the game in the early morning compared to the afternoon or whenever it is, I still felt the same connection on my TV screen as I did with 40,000 other baggers there. So, yeah, I'm so glad that I could have been there for that. But yeah, same nerves as loading up the KO in London, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing for me. I'm normally very nervous, and maybe it's a bad thing. Leading into the game myself, I feel like I'd already kind of made peace with losing, which is maybe just the way of all the trauma from all the years and just trying to make sure I don't lose my head on the actual day. But I don't know, so much of whenever I was thinking about the game against St Kilda was just that whatever's going to happen in this game will happen. This season, if we lose this game, wasn't lost necessarily in this contest. It was the last 2 months of football when we were healthy, when we were sitting second, and just all of the wasted opportunity that was there. We get a bit of that uptick in form and confidence in the West Coast game, but ultimately, still thought we could win it, was hoping we
Yeah.
were going to do the job against St Kilda, but I was trying to set myself up with maybe we not having that heartbreaking loss, thinking,
Yeah.
is it really the boys at the end of the day that can lose you the game? As long as they go out there and give everything, leave everything on the field, I'm not going to blame the squad that went out there in that final game. And maybe some will disagree with that perspective. Maybe that was just a defense mechanism kicking in, but that's kind of how I was leading into the game. Still hopeful that we'd get it done. But ultimately, that's how I was sitting. Obviously, the game progresses, Lockie.
Yeah.
How did your thoughts and emotions, I guess, digress as the contest went on?
That's a good question. I think my optimism prior to the game definitely decreased as the game went on, which maybe is off-brand for how I normally experience Carlton games. There was something about it. Maybe it was the umpiring. Maybe it was kind of the general fan vibe, which was pretty unique to anything I'd ever felt at a Carlton game, I think. I don't know about you, but something seemed off.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think early on, I was saying to those that I was there with that we just need the first goal at least, or the first couple. If Saints get a bit of a start, just that nervous, tense atmosphere will really seep in. If we can just get a bit of momentum early, who knows what could happen? And then we go into what you were kind of alluding to earlier. Saints don't necessarily have anything to play for. So if we can get the first 3 or 4 goals, get a bit of a buffer going into quarter time, then we've got our season on the line. Will the Saints really have enough to fight back? And we weirdly had some good chances early, wasted them, which I think really frustrated me. And then, we kept the Saints in it. The energy was still there, but there was this weird air of, I don't know if it just was that nervousness from the crowd. We were loud, but even the boys on the field, that the pressure wasn't up. Something just was missing. And it probably wasn't really until the third quarter when things started to maybe get away from us that we started to click a little bit more into gear. How do you feel like, I guess, on field that the game started to play out?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the supporter air, because I was thinking about your reflections from the Hawthorn game, and I was worried that was going to be the environment we were going into, where everyone is tense, not just the players and the crowd as well. So there was part of that. Yeah, it was. I felt the same way as you, where I don't know. I felt like things were working okay early, without taking our opportunities well, which is just always such a frustrating feeling when you look at the scoreboard and it's like, well, we could so easily be up at this stage. It definitely was nothing like the West Coast game in terms of the way that we were able to move the ball and find players inside 50. No surprises there. Like they're two completely different teams. But I don't know, did you feel like, what about from a game plan perspective? I feel like a lot of what's in Kilda has been quite documented this season. Did you feel like our gameplay strategy was correct?
Well, that was probably the thing that worried me heading into this, just how St Kilda play. All their strengths, again, are our weaknesses. They tend to be, at least in the last 6 or so weeks, a really fast-moving team, off halfback, love to play that way. Bit of a smaller forward line. They had some outs as well, key forward down there. Yes. But that was kind of my worry leading into the game. How do we stop that? And for a lot of that game, we kind of didn't stop it. I thought that St Kilda were able to break away far too easy. But my worry was more, what are we doing with the ball rather than just defensively? Because you can kind of defend as well as you possibly can. But if we have the ball in our hands with so many key outs across the field, we don't have McGovern across halfback to be that interceptor, get that game moving for us. We clearly don't have that forward line. You lose Zach Williams as another piece in there. What are you replacing it with? The laid out of Gov means that Fantasia starts in the game. I thought maybe that was Ashton Moyer's spot to just have a bit more of a taller target, someone that can maybe lead up and mark. And I think probably halfway through the game, you really noticed that we just needed something else in that forward line. So I thought we really struggled at stages. There was moments of still bombing it inside 50 and hoping someone would take a mark. And
Definitely.
weirdly, it almost worked okay. I thought Kemp and whoever was down there, they were getting the ball to ground. We weren't allowing St. Kilda to take easy intercepts every single time, but the representation that was so good against West Coast, we just weren't able to get our hands on the football. We weren't able to lock it down. St. Kilda just walking it out every single time. So that the ground balls inside 50 was really frustrating me. And
Agreed.
It was just so clear throughout this game. I thought ahead of the ball, we were doing a lot. But as soon as we were on that sort of 70-meter arc, needing to penetrate inside 50, it was clear we didn't have a target. We didn't have anyone. And St. Kilda is so well set up defensively that can you really do much? How hard is it to find that target inside 50? Can you change up anything? I was sitting there thinking, man, it's just personnel. Like, what can you do? We're trying to do everything right. We're trying to move the ball and switch and look for targets inside 50. But when you just don't have that outlet and when you have to bomb it long, like what can you do? How did you kind of see it, I guess, in that at least final third play and how we're trying to move the ball inside 50?
Yeah, really similar to how you saw it. There was a number of times where we took some of those options that resulted in goals, like the Walsh square up to Carroll is one that sticks out. And there was plenty of times where I felt like players were looking for those options, and the way that St. Kilda was setting up, it just wasn't possible. Yeah, and your comments around the kicking it longs, the packs, I agree with as well. I don't have the stats to back this up, but it felt like whenever we went to Kemp and Wilkie one-on-one somewhere, it was just never working. But when it was more of a congested situation, it wasn't just coming straight back out. But you're right, then it's the ground balls. It goes back to our conversations over the last few years about how many smalls that we play and how often do we have a game where Durden, Motlop, Owies, Fantasia, like we're happy with all of their performances. So rare. And that's just the situation that we're in right now. Moya not playing the full game is the one you point at. And I think Vossi mentioned it in the press conference that he doesn't feel like he's ready to play a full game yet. So if that's the case, I guess we take his word for it. But it's so hard when in 2 quarters he seemingly shows so much.
It's such a strange thing. They'll know him better than anyone else. And perhaps when the pace maybe of the game, because you've got a little bit more tired legs, clearly the pressure in that last quarter is massive. But having those fresh legs, being able to be ready and available, is that better for a guy like Moya? They clearly believe so, but maybe you could have made that sub a little bit earlier. I just think that it was so clear and obvious that we needed an extra target inside 50. We just needed something, a different spark, a different look. Ashton's done that twice in 2 quarters and looked like that difference. I think he only kicks the 1 goal, but he looks like he could have kicked 3 or 4 the way he was moving, attacking it, leading up. Every time he got near the ball, it seemed like something good was going to happen. I'm surprised we didn't try to do something else earlier with that. I understand we're quite limited with a lot of personnel around the grounds. But I just think the ball movement was that real worrying point for me. But I like that we did try to switch quite a lot from defensive 50. I noticed something we've spoken about. We were happy to just hold the ball and went, look, St. Kilda's game plan here is smart. It's just sit back, stay deep, because we know they can't bomb it long. We can't give them those easy inside 50s. And like you kind of said, they're disappointing that compared to West Coast. I know it's only West Coast, but the small forwards were hitting the ground with pace, and there was a lot of pressure, which just didn't seem to be there for whatever reason against the Saints. But when we did win the ball, we were just saying, look, Saints are sitting back. Let's chip it around. Let's just hold possession. There's no need for us to bomb it long because we know we're not going to win that ball back. I felt like we were a lot smarter in trying to continually switch to one side. Okay, there's nothing. Switch to the other side and eventually start to open up. And we saw it many times. We were able to progress that ball and move it forward. So that was at least something positive. I think that other annoying element that was worrying me throughout probably the second quarter in particular, when I think Saints really started to get on top, thought the only time we really looked deadly or attacking, that we looked like we were going to score, was if we won a centre clearance. And we ended up, kicking, I think, 3 goals from centre clearance. Let me find these exact stats here. Yes, 3 goals won from centre clearances. Then it bounces. St Kilda only kicked a point. That's clearly a big strength for us. I guess the worry there was it looked like the only time we were sort of potent was there. Anything else you kind of would have done differently on the day to get better looks at goal, whether it was Moya on earlier or starting the game, any other way you wanted us to play on the day?
Yeah, that's such a hard question because you're right. Like it definitely feels like St Kilda scouted it well. The way that we were going to be able to do things. Yeah, I guess it makes, and again, like you said, with McGovern not playing it, it hamstrung us even more to try and if there was other kind of personnel moves to make potentially, like whether it's one of those guys to join Kemp down there, but yeah, I don't have a good answer to that question because they played it so well, and you're right, the way that we were switching the ball more and trying to look after it, I liked. And there was only a few iffy kicks in that time that put the stress levels quite up. But yeah, did you have any?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't perfect, but we gave ourselves enough opportunities. I think defensively, we probably weren't amazing and gave St Kilda still way too many looks and easy looks. It was, again, one of those games where we're really battling and struggling just to get a decent look on goal. But like St Kilda, we're just getting those easy chances. And I guess it all then kind of came down to that last quarter, Lockie, where I don't know how you felt kind of throughout that period, still sort of trailing, still those couple of goals down. I felt like we always had that one burst in us. And I just was hoping that we would want it more. The pressure would lift. How did you kind of feel heading into that last break? Were you confident that we'd find something?
Maybe not confident, but I definitely believed that it could be in there. The stadium was electric, wasn't it? When that Moya goal went through, you happy with him putting that one through the big sticks and not squaring it up now that you've seen the replays?
Oh, I think when we had this discussion, I remember in the moment, I was like, gee, look, I love that he took it. I love that he has the balls to say, nah, look, I don't care that I have only played 1/4 of footy. I'm just going to put it through the big sticks. And he executed it. So you can't say anything bad. But at the time, I remember thinking if he had missed that and, you could have hit Brodie Kemp in the square, what is he doing? But looking back at the replay, whoever was closing for the Saints into that goal square, it would have been tight, and it probably would have been maybe the bad call at the end of the day. Love that he backed himself in. It's funny that I said I was so calm, I guess, at the start of the game because, mate, just before the 3/4 time break, my sister and girlfriend went and got bloody jam donuts early, which I might add. Not a fan of this. I was definitely not involved in this discussion. Maybe they cursed us there, but they offered me jam donuts. And I was like, I will throw up if I have any food. Don't even talk to me. Don't have a conversation. I just need to be glued in to watch the footy. So I was very tense, but I thought that if we can just get a bit of momentum, if we can hit the front, surely we just run over the top of them. They won't have that extra energy and the energy from the crowd that was building all day, the umpires seemingly against us, and the water bottle incident, clearly horrific. We don't want that. But taking that to the side, the bullshit chant, all of that kind of fun pageantry of footy, it just gets everyone involved. And I always love those little things. And we were insane. And Moya kicks it. Motlop puts us in front. How did you, I guess, see it from that point? Were you hold the game? We need one more score. Because I think that hashtag sort of 75 was still lingering defensively. Where were you sitting after Motlop scores? Did you think we've absolutely got it now? Take me through it all. I want to live through this emotion. I know some people might not like us to sit here and just go through each and every single moment, but for games like this, when it was all emotion, this contest and what preceded it, I want to just run through all of it. So Lockie, take us through that. Motlop's just kicked the goal. What did you think?
Shout out to Timmy Dub because the hashtag 75 was ringing in my head as well at a number of points throughout this game. So he's certainly etched that pretty solidly into my mind. Definitely didn't feel like it was over with that Motlop goal. It was, it's a funny one, isn't it? It's kind of like the Moya kick where if we win the game, then whatever we do in that period, whether it's slowing it down or playing normally, you back it in, or hindsight's 2020 the other way around. So I feel like, you kind of can't win with that kind of debate. It wasn't until when that free kick was given to Kemp, I hate to say it, I definitely said to myself, it's over.
Yeah.
We've done it.
I agree. I was very much in the camp of we need one more goal. We kick a goal, game's done. And ultimately, I think you kick that goal, it is over. He gets the free kick and you just start hoping so much that that's the moment. Oh, here it is. Kempy, he's had a bit of a tough day, but he was so good last week. Here's the chance. Unlikely hero. He misses. And I'm like you, that hashtag 75 was just ringing in my ears because, a goal from Kemp there puts us over the 75, which feels really, really positive. Miss puts us at 74. And I was like, oh no, that's a point under. At that stage, if Saints kicked a goal, that'd be exactly 75. And I'm thinking, oh, that's it. That's horrific. That's all I could think. And I was just more stressed thinking about the number and almost this massive thing that we'd built up for us, a magic number. It was all going, our season was going to end on losing at 75. We're on 74. And I was like, Timmy Dub, what have you done to me? I was more stressed about the actual scoreline and the numbers than losing the game. It was like this mad thing going on in my head. And then as soon as that point goes through and Saints get the ball, I'm going, for the love of God, you've stuffed this up all year, Carlton. It's been an absolute, just a poor thing that we can't seem to do in defend kick-ins. If you can just defend one kick-in, make it this one, and then, what happens? Saints move the ball straight away down. Filippo gets a shot on goal, misses. At this stage, I'm thinking
that missed either.
I'm thinking, this is it. How many chances have the Saints missed? I then look back at the scoreboard. I'm thinking, okay, if they kick a goal at 76, maybe that's a sign that it's past 75. It doesn't matter. It's not the number we needed. Maybe it'll be funny that we win on 74. Maybe that's just the footy gods having a bit of a laugh in the stress. But no, it wasn't meant to be. As Timmy Dub tweeted at us, the hashtag 75 was breached both ways. But then, Higgins, it happens again. In the last few seconds of a game, the opposition put one through. Take me through the emotions. The siren goes. We've lost. We're out of finals at this stage. What did you feel?
Yeah, I think when the goal went through, knew it was over. I haven't watched the replay of it, but I'm guessing it was like 10-ish seconds left. So that was a head in the hands last 10 seconds. I didn't watch the last 10 seconds. And it was definitely a numb feeling, and I guess it just felt like the season was over. Like, I guess the way that all played out, I just wasn't even thinking about the Port Freo game. It just felt symbolic of that was our chance. This is 2022 all over again. We had our chance for finals and we've missed it.
Yeah, it felt inevitable after Kemp misses that and then they go down and miss their shot. You just prayed so much that it wasn't going to happen again. But ultimately, it feels like it happens all the time now for us. When that moment is there, that high pressure, we need to win, we need to hold on. The opposition just find a way to kick one. And frustrating that it happened again. I was at least a little bit more hopeful in that last 10 seconds. I looked and thought, look, it's not enough time, but just one perfect kick. You just need one clearance and a goal. Please, as soon as it wasn't a clear clearance, and I think then Hollins gets the ball, gets smothered, I was like, well, that's it. There's not enough seconds left. Siren goes. You'll lose. it's an interesting feeling being back there again. Season ended. I agree with you. I was not thinking about Port. I had bought everything into this game saying it's up to us to get it done. I'm not going to be
Yes.
sitting here thinking, oh, okay, we've lost. Maybe Port can get the win. It's up to us. It's in our hands. We can control it. Ultimately, we don't do it. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I don't know if I'm alone in how I feel after the game, but immediately, you know, I look back to like the Elliott goal 2022. That's the most pain I've ever felt as a football fan.
Me
And
too.
I felt that loss so much as a fan. I felt all that pain for myself. That was everything I wanted, finals, all of that, hopes and dreams crushed for me and what I wanted to see. Weirdly, when that final siren went, Higgins has kicked the goal. The emotions I felt, they weren't necessarily my pain. I was just like, I just feel so bad for the players. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted them to not have to go through that again. It was less for
Yeah.
me. And I don't know why it was like that and why those emotions weren't as, like, there wasn't this air of sadness that I felt previously. There wasn't this pain. There wasn't this, I feel like I'm going to cry. It's been ripped out again.
Yeah.
That emotion in myself wasn't there. I was looking at the players just thinking, fuck me, it's happened again. What happens now for them? How do they get past it or again? And yeah,
Yeah.
so it was an odd one and very weird that's how I was feeling after the game. And I guess it kind of goes back to that, just they gave everything in that game. So
Yeah.
I'm not upset in how they lost that game because I thought we lost the season a month or 2 months ago. We bring that same effort, we bring that same passion, we bring that pressure, how we played that game. We do that for the last 2 months. We don't put ourselves in the position that we needed to win in the last seconds against St. Kilda. The season would have been fine. We could have been talking about top four. I was more
Yeah.
upset about what I'd seen in the past 2 months than what I saw play out in front of me when we had half a team there. Yes, we still had opportunities. Yes, we still should have taken them. But I wasn't feeling the hurt in that game. I guess, how did you were you similar in any of your thoughts around that final siren, or were you more just in that moment and what that
Mm.
last result meant? Because ultimately we win that game, we hold on, we're in finals, and we don't have to worry
Yeah.
about the alternative of losing that game and what that could have meant.
You mentioned when we caught up outside Marvel that frustration
Mm,
around us kind of losing this, not in these
mm,
last 2 weeks. It was, what we've seen previously, and that stuck with me until over these past few days because it's so true. And when I think about that more, it gives that frustration of like, yeah, if we play with this desperation
mm,
every week this season, mate,
yeah.
we probably are a top two team, genuinely. So that's a frustrating thing when you kind of reflect, and in terms of the reflection on straight after the game, comparing it to 2022, I think that's a really strong reflection, and I think it resonates with me too. I think we are such different fans now.
Mm,
What don't you
yeah.
think? 2 years ago, like that was our first
Mm,
chance of like proper Carlton happiness in 9 years.
mm. And weirdly,
And
I don't know if it is this, but I don't think I'll ever be broken as much as that ever. Like, that's the lowest I've ever felt as a fan. Worst experience. Once we're past that and we got to a prelim, we've beaten Collingwood since then. Like, we've kind of, even though they've beaten us in a couple of close ones,
mm,
having felt that emotion, I'm not sure anything else can feel like that. I can have bad moments, but
yeah,
everything feels better than that. And
hmm,
maybe that's just a weird way of looking at it. And that's why this loss didn't hurt me as much. And maybe there is that part of, there was still a chance that Port Adelaide get the victory over Freo and it
maybe.
doesn't matter. Was that a part that I wasn't willing to let go? And
Mm,
I don't know, I was trying to reflect, and we had a bit of this conversation on the long walk to Crown after the game.
Yeah.
talking about that maybe it's a good thing that we, don't play finals and we have this horrific end to the season. And that's a stupid way of looking at it. I don't want it to be that case, but in the sense of, okay, 2022, hot start, bottled it, second half. Last year, the worst start to a season we've had, sitting bottom 4, turn it around. All of a sudden, we make a prelim. And, this season, it was a good start, hit that middle patch beautifully, dropped off at the end. Now, the midway point of last season, everyone was just, let's say, list perspective. There's so many other elements of the club, but I'll just focus on the list for this, I guess, discussion. We were saying, okay, gut it. There's so many players that shouldn't be here. I can see so many list holes, so many things that need to change by season's end.
Yes.
Ultimately, things turn around. You make a prelim. It's a lot harder to make those decisions at the end of the year. You start to think, okay, was that just, what's the real Carlton? Was it what we saw in the first half? Is it the second half of the season? Well, this squad made a prelim, so we probably don't. Maybe the issues that we found at the start of the season aren't really there. They're fixed. So I think that I was maybe trying to look at this loss and the potential no finals of maybe we can finally be ruthless and make those hard calls, because if we make finals and start to win a few, does it paper over the cracks again? And we're not going to actually address the issues for another season. So I think that's where I was saying, if I can find any positive in us bottling another season, we can make these tough decisions, and it's a lot easier to do so.
Yeah, it really does. And this is something that I am struggling to grapple with at the moment. So maybe you can help me with this. And this is something we've spoken about over the years, which is what a lot of teams are doing right now is, well, if this and this happened, we'd be fourth. And, if Jordan Clark didn't give away that free, then Fremantle would be playing finals and those kind of things. And if Always kicked that goal against Adelaide, Dacos didn't kick that goal, Gov kicked that goal and Kep kicked that goal, then we're second. Or however you want to do that. I find it really hard to judge the quality of, or like where we're at objectively by ladder and by wins, because of how many micro moments there are in these freaking games. And if Kemp had his kicking boots on, we're having a totally different discussion. So, but your point stands and is very relevant, that I think it is easier to make those decisions when things aren't going well. And maybe that was what this was going to present to us if things went differently.
And it's such a difficult thing to look into and say that that's just it. But I think clearly there is still something that needs to happen, whether that's players coming in, assistant coaching. We do need to keep evolving 100%. This, because we're clearly not there. We can't be consistent for long enough. And it left us into this position. And even with so many outs, we brought it and we still made mistakes out there. There were things that we can still improve on to make sure that we're not having to rely on Port Adelaide winning a game of football to get us into finals. And it's funny that you touch on like these little small moments and if this had happened, we could have been here. It's also strange to think that if these two fixtures were flipped, or Freo played Port on Friday night, we go into this game on Sunday thinking, we don't even need to win. And does the whole narrative change because ultimately we win the same amount of games? We have won the same amount of games as last season. But just because of how the fixturing went, the whole perspective changes. And I know that might be a silly thing to actually look at, because you can kind of only take what's in front of you, and that the high pressure moment was there. This group needed to win. Yet again, they didn't win. And you take that at face value. But it is just strange to look at the alternative universe where we're playing after that game going, oh shit, we won against West Coast and that was what got us into finals.
That is the one concept that I've been thinking about over the last couple of days that I cannot rationally think about. Like, if that happened, are we resting Cripps? Are we resting Wiedering? Like, what?
Yeah,
totally
genuinely.
Different.
What happens in that circumstance? So it's it's a bizarre thing. Clearly, this
Mhm.
season's been so close with so many things, and maybe it is hard to judge what we are right now. And if we are
It
good,
is.
if we aren't good, I guess we're going to have to find out. The great thing is that we're playing finals, and
Mhm.
we have a genuine chance of still going all the way. And some people
I
might think
believe.
that's delusional from the fact of the football that we've played for the past few months, but they're now cutthroat games where anything can happen. You win one, you move on to the next. You win that one, it can keep happening. They're little moments. The season starts now. Everything that happened from the past 24 weeks means absolutely nothing. It's Carlton v Brisbane. And maybe you can look at, a couple of these close games late in this season, our form line and everything, and say these boys just don't have it. But we've got the opportunity to do it now. And at least the pressure to some degree is off because of how we've finished the season. And I don't want to get too into the talking about the Brisbane game, but it's all I want to talk about. But we'll definitely be doing that next week. So I'll try to pull away from that, Lockie. I'll try to go to that moment. So obviously, we then catch up after the game and have potentially the worst experience of all time. As I'm sure a lot of people who went to the game had. You're already sad. You're already not happy with what's happened. We then have to walk across from Marvel to Crown, and the heavens opened. I don't know if the footy gods were crying that we didn't get the win, but what obviously we were trying to debrief and we're trying to have this conversation that we're kind of still having now about it all. Yeah. How did you feel throughout that walk? Was the fact that you had to focus on not slipping over, not getting, washed away in the floods or getting struck by lightning? Did that help? What was that feeling like after the game, then having, a flash flood attack us on the way home?
It truly was the footy gods crying. I definitely undersold how long that walk was going to be to you. And I think I undersold it in my own head. I was like, yeah, it's probably like a quick 10. Definitely.
It probably would have been if we didn't have to, like a CIA mission having to go like 5 meters hide under the
genuinely
the roof on top of us and then have to try and sneak out. It felt like some sort of operation was going on, but it was just us trying to escape the rain because that was genuinely we've been caught in a flash flood before that you almost knocked yourself out in, which was a great story. We'll have to tell sometime on the pod, but this was almost worse rain. No hail this time, but a lot worse rain. And I feel like for me, that was a good thing, that it made me not think about the football because I was just thinking about, okay, how am I getting to the next street? How am I getting past this tram and trying not to get hit on this journey back? And then, the rain starts to stop. We get to the Imperial Hotel to start to watch Port v Freo. So weirdly, at this stage, the season's still alive. As much as doom and gloom as it feels, the season's lost. There was still a game of football that could decide our season completely out of our hands. I know we were there and we went through this, but I kind of want to just ask you and get your exact feelings because I'm not sure we had this exact conversation, but were you confident? Did you think Port could do it? Were you letting yourself start to hope again? Were you sitting in the sadness? How were your emotions feeling leading into that game, Port v Freo?
I think I was struggling to have rational thoughts about what we'd just seen. Or I feel like what we'd seen at Marvel, I was thinking rationally about, but what it meant for the bigger picture, I just wasn't processing right because it felt, I don't know the right word, embarrassing to have our season not in our hands like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe this is an unpopular opinion. I don't even know if I actually believe this, but kind of the buying into the like, let's go Port. Like, we're all going for Port Adelaide now. Like, I was definitely doing that with you, but deep down, that felt wrong. It felt in the moment. I felt like we didn't deserve to make finals, which isn't how I feel now. But I think that's how I felt as we were sitting there watching this game. It's like, this is the way we're going to make finals.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Like, as soon as the siren went and we started to walk out of our seats, I was doing it almost just to G myself up and not have to think about Carlton, almost in a joking way, just being like, oh, well, up the port, come on, power, and you just start getting yourself hyped because, like, what else can you do? And I think I'm similar to you. I just couldn't emotionally buy into the Port game. Like, I
No.
was watching, I was stressed, I was cheering, but even up until those closing moments, it just wasn't sinking in of what it all meant. I almost wasn't allowing myself to buy into the emotion of getting hurt again this way. I was trying to already make peace with season's done. We've stuffed it up. We did not win.
Me too.
Therefore, we don't make finals. Whatever happens in this game almost doesn't matter because we lost it there. And I was there and I witnessed it and it didn't happen. And weirdly, even when that siren goes, Port wins, we were celebrating, we were happy, but I don't think it really hit me until I was on that train ride home of what just happened. So how did you feel when that siren went? And I guess, the next couple of days, that's the crazy thing because you've just had your heart ripped out of your chest, and then all of a sudden you have to rummage through and find it and put it back in because we're making finals, baby.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think I woke up Monday morning with that feeling of like, let's just take all the circumstances away and just look at the fact that we finished 8th, and it was looking like that may not happen. And like you said, with the way that this season has gone, you really can just make a case for anybody in that 8 to have a good run. And so that's how I was feeling. And I watched Vossi's presser, which was an interesting watch, obviously, because that happened before the Port game. So it was a nice little look back in time. Shout out to the journo that asked him if the season was a failure.
Loved that question. Loved it.
So good.
Wish he almost pressed him again, but I don't mind. I like that I love Vossi's honesty there of like, can we park that? Mate. Can we wait till the season's actually over before I analyze that? I just thought that was a great exchange, and one you don't get. Like, I felt finally in that moment that that's the real Michael Voss. This isn't the media-trained Michael Voss. Sorry to cut you off. Yeah, I love exactly that moment. Right.
We had the exact same feeling. I thought it was a more real press conference. It felt like it was a journey for him, that press conference. Of the first few minutes, he was very much like, let's talk about this game. Whatever happens, we'll address that at the time. And then towards the end, he was kind of getting sucked into the questions that were being asked. He's like, yeah, well, maybe Harry and Charlie will be back. And, and like he was kind of letting himself open up to the idea that, hey, this may all work out, which I guess is kind of the emotions that I was having.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably just the biggest emotion when that siren went was thank fuck. Just because, as I said, like when we lost, it wasn't necessarily just for me. I was more sad for the players, weirdly, which is such a not me thing. I don't know why I was feeling that. I think I was just protecting myself more than anything.
You having empathy?
What is going on? I'm not being selfish. What the fuck's happening? But so much of, I think, the worry of not making finals as well is the embarrassing feeling from where we were, having to cop it from everyone. That's the outside noise. So as soon as that went, it was like, oh, thank God I don't have to deal with that as a supporter. And then it was slowly starting to kick in. And I've been in this shit-stirring, happy mood, Lockie, ever since of just, I'm glad we did it that way once it came to be that way.
Sure.
Like, once we lost to St. Kilda, I wanted there to be, after the siren, dodgy umpiring decision, Port get it, and they win the game, and you could just say, stuff you to the opposition supporters. We've won in the funniest way possible. We're now in finals. Because I loved to see the opposition supporters going early on the socials, because I didn't really go on social media after the game, because we obviously, we caught up afterwards, had a lovely dinner. So I was social media blackout, really. So then to go on and see all these posts from everyone after our game, not knowing what was to come. And then, look, this is where I'll get into it. We're 45 minutes in. Hopefully we've weaned them all out. But I'm sure someone will find it and clip it. But, nothing makes me happier. Nothing makes me happier, Lockie, than just now having that memory of those St. Kilda fans celebrating like they'd won the fucking flag. I said this to you in the car on the drive there, that it's a shit take of them celebrating. Of course, they're going to be happy. They've beaten a team they don't like. They're out of finals. But they were genuinely jumping up and down, hugging each other in my bay, like I did when we beat Melbourne to get into a prelim final. And that's where I was like, this is fucking embarrassing. Like, yeah, it's good, but you shouldn't care this much about something that makes your football club worse, in the sense that you went from having pick 5 to now pick 7. You've put yourself in a much tougher fixture bracket, because it goes, I believe, 1 to 6, and then above. They're above that now, so they're not going to have the luck of Hawthorn last year getting that easier run. They've cooked it, and guess what? It was all for fucking nothing, you losers. Your small club mentality. I absolutely despise the St Kilda Football Club, and the fact that they can only play good football to ruin other people's games and seasons. They can't win games of football when it matters for themselves. I mean, who am I to talk? We couldn't beat them ourselves, but look at us. We're in the 8. I thought it was embarrassing for them, and I absolutely live for it now that was their grand final, and they thought the whole football world thought they'd got a new moment. Everyone was tweeting, oh, the Jack Higgins, it's another Jamie Elliott. Well, guess what? Means absolutely nothing now, because we're still playing finals. So I loved it. I loved it afterwards, and I've been in a shit-stirring mood clearly ever since. Because it doesn't matter now. We've made the 8. Who cares?
And as we said when we were reflecting on that in the car, it's like, and you know what? If this happened in 2019 and we did it, well, we would have done the exact same bloody thing. So it just makes it all the sweeter, doesn't it? So, yeah.
But, I absolutely love it. I thought that was a fun little fallout. So, look, we've run through it, almost gone for way too long on that, but the roller coaster was there. We went from bottling our season, Lockie, all of a sudden we're now playing finals within a few hours. So, crazy. I guess off that, looking at it all holistically, now that you've had a few days to settle it all in, does the loss and the way it happened diminish that achievement and feeling of making finals? How have you kind of wrestled with it all? Because I think in the end, for me, to answer it firstly, it does, but I now don't care. I just think it's funny, and I'm running with that, seeing the radio silence from opposition supporters after we won, knowing that I get to go into work on Monday and Tuesday, and everyone at work, you can tell that they're seething that we're still in the 8. So at the end of the day, I don't care. I'm just running with it from here on out. How are you kind of dealing with it now? Are you just still pissed off that we didn't get it done?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we are 48 hours on from the moment, and I still haven't gotten over it yet, I would say. I think when we discuss the Brisbane preview next week, different story. Everything in the home and away season for me will be kind of forgotten, and it'll be like the finals mode. But I think, like you said before, it doesn't... There's all these little moments that go into the result of a game, and all these games that make up a season. And you can look at it rationally like that. But at the end of the day, we had that chance to have it in our own hands to seal our fate. And once again, we missed that chance. And it's really hard to quantify objectively like what that is, and whether that's something about us as Carlton, or whether that, like, what that really is, or whether it's just bad luck. But the fact is that, I built up to this game so heavily that, seeing that goal sail through is still hitting.
Yeah, look, my thoughts and feelings on that game, I think when the season is done, that's when I'll most likely really reflect on it. I'll probably just move straight to finals. Let's have a go. Let's have a crack at Brisbane again. See if we can do better than last year. Let's try and win this, because why not? And I think probably, again, that self-preservation, just forget about it, right? Chalk it up to everything else, put that away, and just move on. But I think it is a big deal, and it kind of moves to my next topic. Sorry, I know you're trying to jump in there, but I think it's all about that, are we someone that just fails in those big moments? I kind of want to ask you this question, because in those clutch times, I'm talking, Collingwood 2022 with the Elliott goal, Melbourne 2022 with the Cozzy Pickett goal. You've had Dacos this season. against the Pies. Sam Berry kicks one for Adelaide against us. We've then had our own moments going our way in McGovern misses against the Pies. Kemp misses and Higgins kicks his goal. Is there an issue with us not being able to stand up in those key moments? Is this a trend? Is it something? Are we destined to be, regardless of how everything else played out, are we destined to just bottle it forever? Or because I feel like this is kind of a narrative that's sort of built out of this game that when we're in these moments, we can't get that job done. This playing group wilts. And if Port hadn't have won, that's probably what we'd be spending this whole episode talking about. So I think we still need to have that discussion off your point and how you're feeling about that Saints loss. So how are you seeing the narrative of us not being able to handle those big moments?
Well, I mean, like I said, I can't rationally put it together because it's such a spectrum of people saying that it's what you're describing then, all the way to these moments are just pure luck and I don't know, like statistics of probability of how these things could go through. Like Higgins kicking that goal from that angle with that pressure, like how many times is he kicking that goal? Like maybe it's a low percentage shot if you want to think about it that way. Like my mind immediately goes to the good times, like the Melbourne win, I guess, and the Sydney game last year as well. Like we've had our moments going that way as well. So I definitely don't want to say that it's something that is just ingrained in us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really like what I keep saying. It's so hard for me to separate like what that is to be able to stand up in those moments and whether it is just something that is probabilities.
Because I think there's something definitely there to be discussed in the sense of season was on the line 2022 and we had moments and we sort of bottled it in the last few games clearly.
No doubt.
Not only from just in the moment of those games being in front, having that lead and losing it, but also the needing to win one in the last four just to make finals and it fell away. Last year, weirdly, it all turned around and we won all the close ones. Then this year, we've had, 2 months to get a few wins to really cement ourselves in there. And whether it's the pressure, whatever it is, we haven't been able to overcome that and cement our spot in the top 8 and ensure that we can hold up in those moments. So it's weirdly that is still there. But I want to kind of ask you a question before I delve into this. Since Vossi took over, he's had, 3 seasons now. In games of 10 points or less, close games, Lockie, do you reckon we have a better positive ledger or worse? Because I think we all go to those maybe higher moments that weighted a little bit more that I think you could argue mean more than a regular season game in Dacos goal and I guess Higgins goal, like season on the line, you have to win just to make finals. But do you think we've had more wins or losses in the 10 points or less games in those 3 years under Voss?
I'm going to guess that it's identical.
We have had, I'll go through the seasons for you because this is a bit of fun. So his first season, 2 wins, 3 losses. In 2023, 6 wins, 1 draw, 0 losses. This year, 4 wins, 3 losses. We went from a patch, Lockie. We went from a patch there where from round 2, 2023 to round 4, 2024, 9 wins in a row in games less 10 points or less. And we discussed this. We discussed this earlier this year after we beat Brisbane and Freo that all of a sudden we're the clutch team. We win all these games. It was only until we lost the round after round 5 Adelaide that 9-game win streak in those close contests was broken. And looking at these games and looking at it, overall the record in 3 seasons is 12 wins, 1 draw, 6 losses.
Wow.
So
there you go.
When you actually see it all, are we just holding on to the losses more? Is it because maybe the argument I'm saying, is it because, I'm looking at, 2022, like Hawthorn, we won by a point and held on. Port, 3 points, held on. Collingwood lose by 4 points. Melbourne 5, Collingwood 1. Those you hold with more. But then we only drew to Richmond and then we had, wins against Geelong, GWS, Melbourne, Gold Coast, Sydney, Melbourne. Then we continue that this year with Brisbane, Richmond, Freo, lose to Adelaide, win against Melbourne by 1 point. Again, we're probably holding on to them, so it feels negative. Lose to Collingwood, lose to the Saints. Overall, that's a very positive record. So maybe do you think that after, I guess, hearing that it's more perceived we're bad in these big moments? Because I want to look at the two biggest moments we've had, I would say, that are bigger than anything, is the Sydney final and the Melbourne final, and we won both of those, 6 points and 2 points. So maybe we're not as inept as we think we are.
It shows how much of a prisoner of the moment any of us, and like I just was then, because my memory of that, like as you bring it up, we were talking about that after opening round, and I'm sucked into the narrative already. So it's totally true.
Yeah. And obviously we clearly do need to take our moments. We do need to make sure that we are on the positive side when these things matter, because we didn't capitalize not only just in close games, but on a pretty fortunate fixture in the second half of the season to get top four, to give ourselves that position. We've kind of wasted what we built up. That's the frustration of this moment. And even now, the circumstances, it doesn't feel as if we've deserved that top 8 spot, even though we have. At the end of the day, no one took it off us. And if the fixtures were put around a different way, it would have been down to, Freo having to win that game without us even having played a game yet. So it's a weird thing to look at, but let me know your thoughts to everything that we've covered so far. How did you experience this game? Is the top 8 finish tainted because of the way we lost? Where are you seeing it all? And do you think that we do still struggle in these key moments? I think to a degree we do, but maybe when you look at the win-loss record, it doesn't. I'm very keen to know. Drop your comments here on YouTube and let us know if you're listening in audio form on the socials at Navy Blue Corner. Links to everything is in the show notes, in the description. Only one click away. Lockie, one of the last things about this game wanted to touch on is there anything else you can kind of take away from it, whether there's positives or negatives from this? Keen to get your thoughts. We've kind of delved a bit more into the emotion side of the game rather than necessarily the play-by-play, the players and all of that. So anything that you think we can take away from this positively or negatively?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is something we touched on. I think it's fair to say that we've seen enough from Moya in 2 quarters to feel pretty good that he could play a role next season.
Yeah, I think so. There's clearly something with him, clean hands. Every time he got it, it just looked like something was going to happen. And we probably haven't had that style of player. He's still young. He's going to take time to develop. I don't imagine he's, if he plays every game next season, there's going to be ups and downs, clearly. We're not expecting him to be kicking match winners every single week, but you want glimpses from these players. And then for him to do it on the big stage in two big games, I think that's important to know that he's got something in there, because you don't often get that with those sort of debutants. Sometimes it takes 10 games before you see signs. So that's great. Totally. I've got another one similar vein. My God, Jackson Binns. I didn't think he had that in him. I've been very skeptical on Jackson Binns finally getting his opportunity in the last 2 games, and he's taken it with both hands. I thought he was really, really good against St Kilda, probably in our top 10 for me. I loved what he was bringing. I loved that he was shouting instructions quite often on the field. He was getting annoyed if someone wasn't passing it to him when he was in the right spot and trying to structure other guys around. Just impressive. And then takes the moment. The pressure's on there to get another goal and drills it. What did you make of Jackson Binns?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything to add to that. I think you're right. We'll just make it the trifecta and say that I thought Lord was good again. Yeah. He 62% game time. Like,
get him out there more.
Yeah, it again shows that get a full preseason at the club with him, and there's something there as well. So it's super nice that out of this we've got these 3 guys that really we were so unsure of a month ago of how quickly they'd be able to play a role with us. And now you'd think that when you and I are building up to next season,
Yeah.
all three of them have to be in the convo for our best team, really, depending on how
No,
preseason goes.
I agree. And it's probably to turn it into a negative accidentally.
Great.
It's probably something that's a bit frustrating in the sense of maybe we needed this injection of youth and just something else, a different look from that youthful exuberance and the energy that maybe these players can bring a little earlier. Maybe we should have exposed them at some stage, but I guess you can caveat that with as soon as we started experimenting with the squad, that's when it all kind of turned to shit. So you can look at it that both ways, but I'm glad, like you, that when we needed to turn to the depth once again, we've kind of found something. Feels like that's a bit of a trend with us when things are bad and we change the squad up. It always leads to something positive. Zach Williams is a forward. Oh, is Kemp a forward? Now we've got these other youngsters coming through. Seems to be always something. My other positive was just that I thought Walsh was again one of his best games he's played. It just starts to look better and better, getting into a bit of form. Right at the pointy end, we saw what he did last season, winning, the best finals player. Maybe he can go and do it again. He's Mr. September. He could be this week. And did you have any maybe negatives or learnings, things we need to improve on for the Brisbane game?
Wow, that's really tricky. It's, again, in terms of us separating like this game and where we're at with the finals, it just feels like it's going to be a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm absolutely going to knock on wood here and say, hopefully we don't have to deal with a situation again where both Harry and Charlie aren't playing in this team with both of their careers, right? So maybe
at least have one of them, surely.
That's what I'm saying. Like, hopefully we won't have to navigate that again. I guess, yeah. No, Walsh was my other, I guess, positive that I was going to say, that it just felt different. I don't know if that was role or whether it was...
Does Cooper Lord help out weirdly in that role?
Maybe.
Who knows what it is?
He had more energy. It was good.
There's something. I think the only negative, and it just ties it into the Brisbane game, that we'll be building up next week for sure. So if you want the preview, if you want to hear all that, who's going to be coming in and out, what team selections we want to do, make sure you are on Blue Abroad at 8 p.m. on YouTube to watch that, or wherever you get your podcast in audio form. But my last negative is really just we just need to find a way to defend the ground better. Thought we still let St Kilda move the ball far too easy. Is that a personnel thing? Is that the way we had to move the ball inside 50 at times? Potentially, but it has been something we've struggled with, and I do not want to be in the spot where there's a few minutes to go, we're defending a lead, we kick a point, and Brisbane move the ball from a kick in and kick the winner. That just can't happen again. We need to be better at this. It's been a problem for a while. Need to find a way for it to improve no matter who is out there. But Lockie, we've been going far too long. We need to get into the Grill the Corner segment. Hopefully we haven't covered everything. I know there was a lot of questions coming in over on Twitter and over on Instagram at Navy Blue Corner. If you ever want a question, send them in there throughout the week, DM us, or make sure you get over to the post when it drops, normally on a Monday or Tuesday. But Lockie, what have the people asked this week?
Well, you alluded to this a moment ago, so I'm keen to hear your thoughts. So from QU3, how would a forward line consisting of Kemp, Curnow and Harry plus three other smalls work?
Yeah. That'll be the interesting thing to see if they potentially try that against Brisbane. I like Kemp as a forward. He struggled a little bit against the Saints, but there's still something there. And I'd like us to keep experimenting with it next season and maybe in preseason to see what it's like. I think maybe until a guy like Ashton Moyer is 100% ready to play, it's not a bad thing to try as just that third marking target. I think Kemp is mobile enough to do other things. I like his pressure down there. My one worry that we talked about last week is just getting too tall and clogging the space. We haven't necessarily worked it amazingly with Harry and Charlie all the time. Is adding another big tall, making it worse? That kind of remains to be seen, but I think I want to try it because we need something else down there. I don't want to bank on a Jack Martin. I don't think Ashton Moy is ready, so why not try that as a Brody Kemp? At least Brody can move up forward. Maybe this actually allows a Harry to play more in the ruck because we'll have another forward target. I'm just trying to look at the
Bingo.
positives of it rather than the problems it causes. So why not give it a go? How are you kind of seeing it at this stage, Lockie?
I think you've forgotten what this segment is, mate. This is where we grill you, and I just say whether I agree or disagree with you. And for that one, I'm going to put an agree on it.
Beautiful.
From Brad Nickel, did you have a small sense of pride in the group given how undermanned we were? I left the game obviously devastated given what has happened, but I honestly didn't expect us to get within 6 goals of the Saints with the team we named.
Yeah, that's probably where my point of view kind of came from out of this game. And I know a lot don't agree. And weirdly, I still kind of agree with them as well in the case of we have the opportunity. Doesn't matter who you put out there. We need to win. We need to be better. We made mistakes. We should have won that game. And that's all correct. But when I was walking away from it, my point of view was simply, I can't say much else. They gave it everything. I know, and I know people hate the effort. Like, effort isn't enough. You need to be better than that. But I blame the last 2 months of lack of effort and intensity. I know that every single player out there did everything they possibly could to try and give us the win. And if we had a few players fit and firing, we win that game easily and we beat the Saints. We have one key forward in that team. We win. You take so much out of a team's structure and spine. They can't win. Think about so many teams this season that they've lost one or two key pieces, and all of a sudden they look like a bottom 4 team. They get like a ruckman back, and all of a sudden the AFL media are going, oh, they've figured it out. And you're like, it was one player. Now we've lost clearly our best ruckman, and it's insane how much of a difference De Koning seemingly makes in this team. Although I love Big Brad getting that goal. I've never got out of my seat so much for someone kicking a goal. Thought it was the funniest thing of all time, most comedic thing of all time. But then, you lose your 2 key forwards, you lose Gov down back. That is just so pivotal to every single way you play. Thought it was obvious that we were trying to figure it out during the game. So I agree with you, Brad. I took so much sense of pride in how they tried to fight that out. I wasn't disappointed in what they did on the day at all. I don't want to be that supporter that is hanging them out to dry for the effort that I saw them apply. That pressure in the last quarter was immaculate. Just the execution wasn't there.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. Here's one through Insta from my man, AJ. We haven't really touched on this in the first hour of this podcast. Do you think the umpiring in the first half contributed to the loss?
Yeah. Wow. It was bad. I am going to be very controversial. I don't think it was as bad as the crowd was getting angry. There was a few decisions that the crowd was definitely very hot at. That was probably just that thing of, you get a bad decision, you get another one, you don't get any 50-50s your way, and every single slight 50-50, you're going to get angry and angrier as that progresses. It kind of just builds. Thought there was a lot that we were getting really mad at that I sat there and thought that was the right call, or at least I can understand from the umpire's perspective why he paid that. Yeah. We've spoken at length about the free kick count and why we don't love to just look at that and say we've been umpired poorly. It's all about the instances. But I would say from those instances, I thought we did get a bit of a poor rub. I loved so much how loud that bullshit chant was.
Oh, I
just love that stuff. And I can't wait to be able to watch the game back properly. I just want to see little moments like that because it's just funny. That's what football's all about. Getting, up in your chair, doing it in a funny way like that. Did it contribute to how poorly we played? Probably doesn't help when you start to get a bit of momentum, you get the ball in a good area and you're not given the free kick, and that maybe that could have gone on to be a goal. Maybe St. Kilda get one in their forward 50 and it doesn't happen and they don't kick a goal. But I just think you have to be better than banking on free kicks going your way to actually win games of football. That's kind of where I see things. I know this is almost grill at Ian, but I want to know how you feel with the free kicks because it's a topic you love to tend to delve into. What did you make of the umpiring as a whole? And did you think it kind of influenced anything, particularly the second half when it was very, very poor?
Well, you've really read my mind there, and I'm glad you have. Maybe this is something for us in the off season. I am growing more and more frustrated with umpiring of the league.
Yeah.
And I'm in no way directing that at the guys that were out there on the field on the weekend. So maybe it's something for you and I to have a think about how we want to attack something like this. But it's becoming embarrassing for me when I think about this sport, my favorite sport in the world, and how it is officiated compared to seemingly every other sport. The amount of grey area in this game is making it really, really challenging to enjoy. And I only felt vindicated by this when I was on social media for the last few days and seeing how many non-Carlton people were in agreement. Because I'm with you. In the moment, I'm like, am I being biased here about this? Like, am I just getting sucked in?
Yeah.
But it's objectively making the game harder to watch. Not just Carlton. Watching two neutral teams, it's like, how is there so much subjectivity and seemingly wrong calls? It's just maddening to me. So it's something for the off season, I'd say. But I think it could be something that you and I could look at getting a bit of a stance on.
I'd love to, because I'll just try and be very quick on it, because I could talk about the umpiring and the rules for a very long time. It could be a pod. I think
so.
I think a lot of it is the rules itself make it difficult for the umpires, and a lot of the decisions that are made are correct by the letter of the law, but the fans don't like the rule. Like, just like the new holding the ball interpretation and how that is all played about with, like, player picks up the ball, attempts to, without prior, dispose of the football, incorrectly disposes of it. That's play on, according to the rules. But everyone here goes, they've picked the ball up. I've tackled you. You've missed your foot. You've done whatever. We all believe that in the rule that we want should be holding the ball. And then what's prior? How long's prior? Did they fend someone off? Like, it gets into the gray area, and it doesn't feel like we're on the pulse of the AFL fans and what they're watching. It just doesn't compute right now. And there's a lot of frustrations around that. And I think it's a massive problem that the game has, and there needs to be some way of fixing it. Do we need more umpires to come out, and do we need someone almost in the commentary box, not to commentate, but just when they are confused about a decision, explain why the umpire called it? Because I've been fortunate that I've spoken about for a while that I know in AFL, I'm at least luckily friends with someone who is an umpire, that I can get these questions out and ask and watch games with him and say, look, he's given it because he saw this, and that's what they're told to look for. And from me looking at it thinking that's a horrific call, I'm like, oh, he's actually done exactly what he's been asked to do there. And there needs to be more insights on that, but it's a massive discussion that I will definitely jot down that we need to have at some stage. It is a lot of fun, but weirdly, we were then given the rub of the green in the second half massively in that last quarter. I felt we were getting every 50-50 to try and even up the count. It was very interesting by the end.
I like it. You kind of alluded to it. I feel like it might be an episode of us to look at potential solutions and that kind of thing, because it's not something that can be fixed overnight, but I'm just worried that the trajectory we seemingly are going on, it's just going to get worse and worse. And it makes it
over-adjudicated completely.
I feel like I kind of want to wrap it up with this one, because we've got this asked a few times. With Moya. So we kind of talked about it a bit and how he played these two sub games. So Clint Bolton says, surely Moya keeps his spot as sub. He has the characteristics of what you want in a sub. And then from Blake, do we keep Moya in the lineup for Brisbane or drop him if Zach's fit, or keep both? I guess maybe what I'm interested in here is you and I often have this discussion around, like, the right sub and the player that's meant to be a sub. How does that feel for you as we look forward to finals? Yeah,
it's interesting. I haven't delved into the team just yet. That will be something I'll be looking at a bit later. So I'm not sure if he would be the perfect sub as far as who else could be available and what the lineup looks like. That's where I tend to draw my sub as well. What's what would he be replacing? Would he be the same as someone else out there? But I love a front half player. I want someone who can change a game. And I think he clearly has shown that he's got a little bit of that in him.
Yeah.
I worry that because of Voss's comments saying he doesn't trust him to maybe play out a full game, whether that's body, whatever that is at this stage, still being quite young, that if there's an injury in the first minute, does that ruin everything because they don't believe he can play out, 3 or 4 quarters of football? So in that sense, I probably would say no, but I like the idea of what the player he is, the type, to go back to the typewriter segment we used to love, Lockie, back in the day on the old trade radio. He's the type of player I quite like. Someone that can go forward, and you could then potentially move someone else in that forward line a little bit higher up the ground. Does Zach Williams start to push up and plays that high half forward up at the stoppage, being that extra number? Does it allow you to have someone else deep? Can Charlie push up around the contest and get involved, knowing you've got extra marking targets forward? He definitely has put his hand up to be the sub for sure. He's performed perfectly. I absolutely love it.
Totally.
What a player already.
I completely agree. I'm incredibly excited next week to have a look at the players we've got available and put that best team together.
Yes, so let's move straight into the votes to just about round this up. We've got one little thing left, so if you are thinking about switching off, don't, because we're going to have a bit of a almost media meltdown, quick fire response to some of the bigger stories that have come out this week on top of just the game and making finals. But we need to do the votes quickly, Lockie. They won't be the last votes of the season, so the award can still be won by anyone, even though it's most likely Paddy Cripps's to lose. A very tough one to find the 3, the 2, and the 1.
Yeah.
Who have you given the votes to this week?
I'm going to put it out there and say I don't see any chance that we're going to have the same votes. I wanted to give my 3 to Nick Newman. And that was, I don't think it was necessarily one of his best games for us, but I just thought that the role that he played was super important for what we were trying to do in this one. This feels weird, but I'm going to give Walsh 2. And it's because it's because he really did exceed what I've kind of seen from him. I feel like I've been potentially more down on him than most. And this felt like a really, really good step in the right direction. And then the Brownlow man gets 1.
Yeah. No, I like those votes. Look, we're very close. I have given Nick Newman the 3. Thought he was really, really good. I think he topped like the meters gained for the game for us. He was absolutely massive, just driving forward defensively. Like Filippo had a little bit of influence, but how much of that is him? How much of that is him pushing up and the communication not being there?
Agreed.
We needed someone in the back line to stand up, and he was definitely someone that did it on the day. He gets my 3. The 2, I actually thought about giving this to Walsh, but then I remember Jackson Binns played, and I just thought what he showed again in this game was above what I expected from him. And I'm early call. I probably have him in the team to play Brisbane. I love what he was like on the wing. It might change. It might still change. I need to know who has to come in, and maybe he might make way. But I like his role on the wing. I like Ollie Hollands playing a bit more of that halfback role from defense. So give him the 2. And then the 1 could have gone to so many players. Could have gone to Cripps. I didn't give it to him. Could have given it to Sard, but then he was on Higgins for the last play of the game. So I had to take that vote away from him, even though his last ditch effort in the last few minutes to save us was like, holy shit, he's just won us the game. But I gave the 1 to Blake Acres. I know he missed an easy goal, and maybe that was his vote taken away, but I just thought him again. Every single place he is on that field, he gives everything. Tough player. So I gave Acres the 1. But media meltdown, Lockie.
Let's do it.
Try and be quick, because we always talk for hours, and all of these topics
we love it.
Could genuinely be a half-hour episode themselves.
Seriously.
But I will start with the biggest news story of today that has broke. For those watching, we're recording on a Tuesday night to get this done for you, because we're very busy people. Lockie's important. I'm not, but we're busy either way. Michael Voss has become the biggest and greatest man of all time. He's a crime-fighting superhero. this felt like fake news. I had to verify this a million times because I got sent a screenshot and I was like, okay, who's hacked Tom Morris again? What's going on? Who's making fake screenshots from this man? I can't trust it coming from him. But Michael Voss at a cafe, as you all have heard, getting his little latte, and then thought, you know what? I'm just going to stop a crime happening here. Wrestles down an assailant who has a knife in his pocket. We could have had a dead coach. Like, he's genuinely put his life on the line here, as ridiculous as that sounds in the instance, but tackles down a guy who stole a car, waits for the police, citizen's arrest. Didn't know they still happened. Didn't know you could still do that. I wonder if Vossi yelled out, citizen's arrest. I don't know what you do in this circumstance. Do you yell it? You're under arrest. Read him his, rights. What are you doing? You have the right to be an attorney. That old jargon. Give it a go. But wild. I mean, what did you make of when you heard this story? And then for Vossi to, in my head anyway, after this has happened, act like nothing happened. Walk in. Was that a coffee for Michael? Thank you. And walk out with his coffee. That's how I pictured it. What did you make of our coach giving the good karma into the universe?
You've summed it up beautifully with my two big takeaways from it. One, I definitely 100% thought it was fake. First thing, looking at my phone this morning, there was no way that was not satire. And two, how can this not be a good omen? Yeah. How can this not be karma just waiting to send us through to a semi?
And I saw from Pommy and I was on Twitter say, like, surely someone there yelled out ball when Vossi tackles this bloke down to the ground. That's like, just absolutely ridiculous. Surely someone's got the footage. I've seen some photos. Why is there no video footage of Michael Voss running out of a cafe to tackle someone down who had stolen a car? It's just, what is going on? I absolutely love it. I mean, look, Lockie, tell me another coach in the AFL that has made it a citizen's arrest. Don't know.
Yeah. I feel like we need to now.
Has Dimmer done it? Has Chris Scott done it?
I think so. Opportunity.
Oh,
we need to play our role now.
Yeah, now that stronger together, everyone in the community, if you can apply a citizen's arrest safely, get it done. Do it for Vossi. But maybe a more serious news story is the murmurs of a bit of a trade. I know the season's not done, so we don't have to talk about this yet. But I want quick fire response from everyone in the chat, everyone in the comments, everyone listening to this, and most importantly, Lockie, because he's here with me. And otherwise, I'm just talking to myself, and it's weird. But Christian Petrarca looks like he clearly wants out of Melbourne. He's been linked with everyone. Seemingly, no one can make a trade happen because no one's got the draft picks. No one's got the salary cap. But Carlton seem to be linked the heaviest because we might have a player that can make the deal happen. Sam McClaw trying his hardest to get this to happen for some reason. I don't know if he's put money on it and therefore is trying to drive it. That he thinks Mackay for Petrarca could get this done. I'll ask you a couple of questions. Do you want Petrarca? How do you think it could get done? Would you trade Mackay for Petrarca? And I want everyone else's responses to this as well.
Yeah, I definitely have a mixed bag of responses to that. I think I would want Christian Petrarca to be a Carlton player. I think he, at his best, is one of the best players in the league. His Norman Smith medal performance was one of the best finals performances I've ever watched. And we are not that far removed from that. The kind of player that he is going to be next season after all these health issues is that has to be something that you take into consideration here. And I just don't see a world where we move Harry. I just think that I just don't see it happening, and I wouldn't want to do it. And to your middle question then about how we'd make that happen if Harry wasn't involved, that's above my pay grade, I'm afraid.
No, it's very, very tough. I mean, who wouldn't say yes to Petrarca coming to their football club? I think the only thing that then, when you start to actually look at it in a bit more detail, you go, okay, well, that's a lot of salary cap. Is Petrarca, let's say you can make the deal happen, is his salary and what player we're getting in, is that what we need for that money? Knowing we've got, I guess like Cripps and Walsh already on a lot of coin.
Yeah.
I don't know if another midfielder even though he's at his best, top 3 in the competition. He's a forward of center player, can kick goals, can go forward, match winner. Unbelievable. But is that the missing piece at that salary, or would that fuck us up in other areas? Like, would bringing in a Petrarca mean we can't then bring in another key defender? Are we completely lost with cash that we can't have another forward and we can't ever make any other moves? That would be my one worry with the deal. Do we need another big name, or can we find the missing pieces to win a flag with lesser known players like a Blake Acres style player, that more Moneyball approach of just getting in a decent player that plays the role that you need him rather than shoehorning in the greatest player of all time? Have we done that too often, of trying to bring in the best player in the league rather than what's the best for this role? Is that what got us into the position in the second half of this season? Okay, Chera's fit, bring him in. Is there a role for him? Or what are we doing? I think that is my concern with just bringing him in general. Plus, I want to use the draft picks, particularly this year. So I think that is a problem. And then I am no way in hell trading Harry Mackay. Key forwards are worth more to me than midfielders when we have midfielders that can kind of get it done. Plus, Petrarca, it feels so rude to say to a guy that's an absolute gun, but he's not the burst speed midfielder that I think we lack. If that makes sense. Like, I want a pacier player than Petrarca. And he's, I don't know, well, he's going to be 29 next year. Almost lost his spleen, almost died. Apparently, it's coming out now that he was like that close. It was that serious. So what player are you getting? And if you can make it happen, go for it. But I'm not losing Harry. You're no way in hell. I think culturally and everything, that'll just set you back years. I think it's not a position we need to be moving Harry Mackay for.
No, and I agree with that. I think it's hard to, like, is there really a precedent for something like this in terms of a trade? Like what's the closest thing to something, someone of his caliber? Like, is it as far back as Judd that you have to look at something like this?
Yeah.
Because like here's just a random hypothetical from DJ here in reply to your question time. Would you give up Chera and Owies for Petrarca? I assume your answer is 10 out of 10 times you would do that.
Yes, but that's not enough at all to get that done. No. So,
but there's a world, I guess, where
you move those in a draft pick and things like that, potentially. I mean, good luck convincing any Carlton player right now to go and play for Melbourne. That's all I'll say in this deal. Why would anyone agree to move there? That should have been the first part of this, like, Harry Mackay discussion in, like, hey, why would the fuck would Harry Mackay want to go to a team that everyone's trying to leave right now because of cultural issues? It just seems ridiculous. So that is there. Let's leave that. Give us your thoughts, though, because, I mean, trade season will ramp up. Things will happen, and it's going to be an absolute lot of fun. And then the last thing that is going to be hard to touch on because it's happening right now, but Matty Owies, he's on trial right now for a dangerous tackle. He was given, I believe it was just a week. Liam Jones didn't get a week, got a fine. What did you make of it? Do you think he should get a week for the challenge? What do you make of the Matty Owies incident?
I didn't realize that Jones got off. I didn't think he would, fine. And therefore it kind of makes me lose my credibility in this discussion. I just don't think that this is worth a week, Carlton player or not. But, you know.
Yeah. I think the thing with the Jones one...
The two questions for you, I guess, are, do you think it should be a week, and do you think it will be a week?
Do I think it should be a week? No. Do I think it will be a week? Yes. Difference with the Jones tackle, and this is the AFL hat on rather than, like, what my opinion is. It's Jones didn't pin both arms. And that's the thing the AFL are adamant at you can't do. Once you pin both arms and drive, that's bad because the player can't protect themselves. Yeah. But my issue with it is I thought Jones, like, slung him.
So did I.
A lot worse, even if his arm wasn't pinned. Whereas I didn't think that Owies' force and I didn't feel like he slung him. It was just a tackle that drove. with momentum. And that's my
Agreed.
issue with this whole thing. We could spend another year on that
Yeah, I know.
I think it's the intent of the act. Jones clearly throws him. I think his looked worse. But with the AFL's armed pin thing, I think Owies could be in trouble. But as things stand, Owies is given evidence. He's on the evidence stand as we are recording this. So I don't know whether he'll get a week or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if the AFL do it because they apparently care about concussion, not enough to make Higgins do a little concussion test. Could you imagine if it, not that who gives a shit now, but could you imagine like if turns out he was concussed and they didn't test him and he kicks the match winner? Like what a story that would have been if kicked us out of finals. But again, Saints fans, guess what? It means nothing. Jog on. Enjoy a worse draft pick and a much worse fixture for 2025 nothing football club. But that is going to wrap up the episode this week. It's been a lot of fun. The Blues are playing finals. Who gives a shit about anything else? Let us know your thoughts to everything we have covered. We'll be back next week for a massive episode. The season doesn't stop because Carlton is still playing. We'll be back on Wednesday night, 8 p.m. with a preview show of our first final, the elimination final against Brisbane. We'll be going through the team we think should play. We'll be going through it all because that's probably the biggest story next week. Who's in, who's out? There's a lot of players. Charlie, Harry, Williams, Chera, Martin, De Koning, Doc, who could be available. I've probably missed about 12 of them anyway. But, Lockie, before we go, we've made finals. How does that feel for you? We've talked about emotions a lot today, but how good is it to be in this position?
I guess it's still sinking in, really. I guess the big thing is just that I truly believe that we can do something in this final series.
Yeah.
Get some guys back and play our best footy from this season, and we're as good as anyone.
Season starts now. Maybe that little bit of knowing the season was gone 100%. And now all of a sudden you get that second chance. Does that do anything emotionally? We'll find out in a couple of weeks. Enjoy the week off, everyone. Up the bloody baggers. See you guys next time.